GP Masters, some of the very best drivers from days gone by, back in the cockpit and back on the track after what for some has been an awful long time.
I think the concept's great, the cars are great, the tracks that we're looking for to go, they look very good. I think it will be incredible for the racing fans, for the public.
It was very curious to see how it was after so many years not having a go in a so competitive car.
Familiar names and a familiar tune, of course, and alongside the likes of Fittipaldi and Patrese, two British drivers, Nigel Mansell and Derek Warwick, plus other legends like Alan Jones, René Arnoux and Andrea de Cesaris, with Alain Prost scheduled to join in the fun at the next event.
It's very, very nice to see them all back in shape and back in a racing car, and we're back out on the circuit. That's what we always loved most.
It's quite demanding for especially for me, because it's been so many years that we've been off the pace that to get it back. He's slowly coming back.
As if seeing all these famous names racing each other again isn't enough, the cherry on the cake is that they're all driving identical cars. These 200-mile-an-hour machines may be brand new, but just like the old days, there's barely a driver aid in sight. So it's down to the skill and guile of these old pros to see who can come out on top.
The car is really interesting. It's a modern car. You change the gear very easy, and it's more easy to drive the car when I compare in Formula One in my time. And but you know, Nigel is very quick, Patrese is quick, Emerson it's a good driver too, and I think it's really interesting in the first race in Kyalami.
It is great to hear that music again on a Sunday afternoon, isn't it? Now then, from a British perspective, obviously, though, the main concern is over a man who was Formula One world champion 13 years ago.
And Nigel Mansell has won! Mansell wins in terrific style! Mansell finishes and he's world champion!
I think it's a wonderful concept, and I think something that's been muted for the last 5 to 7 years, and I think all the organisers and the backers are to be congratulated, because it's taken a lot to pull it together, and it's a great opportunity for the fans worldwide and the sponsors to come to a race with all the old racers and actually have a very special race meeting. The whole series is an opportunity for people to touch the cars, meet the drivers, and have a different kind of atmosphere to what other races are. Any new series is wonderful for motorsport, and they can only complement all the series that are there now. I think it's a fantastic opportunity for all the Grand Prix Masters to have a race together and be on a level playing field. I think the car is very quick. You need to obviously be very fit and very aware. It's not a toy. 650 horsepower is plenty of power. The engine is very responsive, and the team are working great. It's a good strong engine. It's got about 650 horsepower, and from years ago, similar to Formula One engines, it's probably only currently 150 to 200 horsepower down on a Formula One car. Very strong engine.
The brakes are not carbon fiber, they are metal. They are much more sensitive to brake. They don't stop as quick as carbon fiber. And the driver has to judge the pressure on the pedal to make a good, efficient braking. It's very difficult.
The first time when I drive with the pedal shift, and it's fantastic, because you have always your hand on the steering wheel, and you stay flat, and you change with your right hand, you go down with your left hand, and it's very more comfortable when I use the gear like that with my hand, right hand.
I can tell you, compared to my old days in Formula One, this is a different story. I never had so much sound and G-force on my body as I have it here in these cars. Imagine on a corner speed of 200 kilometers, feeling the 4 times your own body weight. I tell you, kind of an experience.
It weighs 612 kilos, which is only a little bit more heavy than a Formula One car, as a matter of fact, and makes it for a very fast reacting and quite nervous race car, but you know, it's exciting for a driver, of course.
What happened in qualifying? This is what happened at the end as the two world champions who start on the front of the grid embraced each other. We're with Nigel Mansell.
And here's Nigel really going on his way. He drove 3 laps, which had got him actually onto the pole of the grid. He's coming up now, up into Westbank, 160 miles an hour, braking right down to second gear, lets the car feed out, trying to get every inch of grip. Remember, no electronics here. This is all right hand, all right foot, gut judgment, flat out. 160 mile an hour, left-hander downhill, pulling it back to the left-hand side of the road, braking very, very, very severely for the bowl. Second gear, it squirts out of here, getting a lot of wheel spin as they come out. Slightly uphill gradient up to the new chicane. They call it the King, but it really is a chicane in my opinion. Bouncing a little bit off the curve there, power on, but an immaculate lap. You can't get this car too sideways, you lose time. Last corner as it comes into the bungee, comes out of it, slides the car right out to the edge of the road, an immaculate lap, and over the line he goes in 1 minute 33.4.
52-year-old Nigel Mansell in pole position, 58-year-old Emerson Fittipaldi, and there he is in what looks like a virtually identical car except for the livery, and it is, of course, because they've got the same engines, the same Avon tyres, they're slick tyres, plenty of grip on today's conditions, with Riccardo Patrese in 3rd position. Top 3, Nigel Mansell, Emerson Fittipaldi, Riccardo Patrese. And jubilation at the end.
I was lucky the tyres came in, I hit them hard. The first set I hit hard on the first lap and just went for the lap. And I think that was probably the best.
I'm very proud to be here with all these great champions, and it'll be a great show tomorrow. I mean, we're going to drive as hard as we always drove. I mean, qualify today was coming right on the edge.
I thought that we could be good friends, having a nice dinner and so on, but it looks like that we are here really to compete, because in effect you can see this qualifying session was as it was 20 years ago. Everybody was trying maximum, and you can see from the time that we are really all of us very competitive.
And there's the look at the grid. First row, Mansell, Fittipaldi. Second row, Patrese and Lammers. Third row, de Cesaris and Warwick. Fourth row, Dana and Cheever. Fifth row, Stuck and Johansson. Sixth row, Arnoux and Eliseo Salazar. And in the 7th row behind them, making up the 14 competitors on the grid, are Patrick Tambay from France and Jacques Laffite, his French countryman. There is the starter.
Remember, it's all down to Nigel Mansell. He calls the pace as they come out onto the straight. They want them all together. They don't want them all higgledy-piggledy. Remember, both the guys from the front have done this before in IndyCar.
Watch the lights. And the Grand Prix Masters, it is go! And Nigel Mansell leads away with Emerson Fittipaldi in 2nd position. Riccardo Patrese tucks into his slipstream. And Jan Lammers retains his 4th position. Nose to tail, 650 horsepower each of these V8 Nicholson McLaren engines are producing, punching them through to the rear wheels. It's nose to tail all the way around. We're expecting it to be fairly static for the first lap or two, but Nigel Mansell is still up there. And René Arnoux goes round, followed by Hans-Joachim Stuck. And they're coming up to Clubhouse now, which leads down to a tremendously fast 160 mile an hour section on this course. And nobody looks as though they're challenging anybody. We're riding now with Emerson Fittipaldi chasing Nigel Mansell. And this was exactly what happened in the closing stages of qualifying. And Emerson was deliberately following Mansell so that he could see what lines Nigel took. But Nigel knew, and Nigel backed off to make Emerson do the same thing. They accelerated again, up to speed, only for the same thing to happen. And as a result of that, Nigel Mansell kept his pole position. Emerson Fittipaldi retained that 2nd position ahead of Riccardo Patrese. And Jacques Laffite is still very much the last man on the circuit.
They're pouring their way now out of the bowl. This leads them up to the little chicane. Very gently to the chicane. It really does slow them down immensely. And then, of course, they feed themselves back down to the last turn. Here they come as they go through. and then fire on. But you have to be so careful. Remember, there's no electronics on these cars as far as traction control is concerned. They really have to drive them, and they're having a blast. They absolutely love them. They're drifting the cars, sliding them. See Hans Stuck in a drift, which of course is the way he's always been, is absolutely fantastic.
Now, I do believe that was perhaps a pre-arranged amongst the drivers precautionary lap before they really get up to speed. That graphic at the top of your screen indicates how many laps have gone out of the 30, that is the full race distance. And here's a replay of the start as Nigel Mansell punches away into the first corner. The first corner is the left-hander at Telcom. We're riding here with Riccardo Patrese, with Emerson Fittipaldi in front and Nigel Mansell in front of him. Tremendous speed, and what a wonderful sight that is. 14 multicoloured identical motor cars with some of the top iconic drivers of the past at the wheels. Riding now with Emerson Fittipaldi, there is Nigel Mansell on the left. This is lap 2 out of the 30. And the race order, Nigel Mansell leading Emerson Fittipaldi with Riccardo Patrese in third position. Fourth is Jan Lammers, so there is no change there. But the speeds are definitely increasing. We have a magnificent monitor in front of us. This course is split up into 3 timed sections, just like Formula One, and we've got the sector times flashing up before us. And if you see purple figures, you know that those are the fastest so far. And we've got purple figures from the first sector, from Nigel Mansell, from René Arnoux, and down at the back, Patrick Tambay is starting to speed up.
Let's face it,
Emerson Fittipaldi is challenging for the lead.
Yeah, let's just not remember, a lot of these fellas haven't done a start for 10 or 12 years. Here we go.
Off spin Stefan Johansson at the back of the field. Has he kept the engine running? That's the important thing. Stefan Johansson caught amongst traffic there. I don't know if there was contact, but it looks to me, from the marshals doubling out, as though Stefan Johansson has lost the prop and is out of the race. They do have on-board starters, so hopefully he can get it going again. And that is not Chloe Mansell, Nigel's daughter. There's the spin of Stefan Johansson. Smoking tyres, no contact from cars.
No, lost totally on his own. He's had a real trouble all week with the car oversteering. He's been complaining non-stop, and I saw him this morning. He said they fixed it. He said I hope they've done it, but in fact there's still something not quite right. What could be wrong, one doesn't know. They've even changed the diff on the whole gearbox last night, Murray.
Well, you can see there, it looks as though Stefan Johansson's race is done. A confab between the marshals talking to Stefan Johansson. They'll want to get him out of the way as quickly as they possibly can, because it's not in a safe position there. Yellow flags waving. Don't pass, guys. Take it easy. Stefan Johansson is off the course.
Yeah, well, as he came down there, he had plenty of room. And in fact, they go down from 5th gear down to 4th as they go into that left-hander down below there. So in that case, he was being a little bit super cautious and maybe just dragged the rear wheel.
Well, whatever, there is the safety car out. This is a very sensible precaution. These drivers, it bears repeating many times, have not been in single-seaters for years. They are very powerful motor cars. They have no traction control. The amount of grip that you get between that 650 horsepower engine and the rear tyres depends on the driver's right foot.
The trouble is with him, he can't get into neutral. If they can get it into neutral, I guess it won't go in if the engine isn't running. So he's having they can't push it backwards.
Exactly. So, and into the pits comes Jacques Laffite. Jacques Laffite, the Frenchman, who was actually last out of the 14 drivers. So it looks as though we've got 2 retirements already on lap 27 out of 30. Stefan Johansson legging it across the gravel track, across the circuit, back to the pits. He's going to be mighty hot by the time he gets there. And the yellows are still waving, which means maintain station. As Stefan Johansson, I was going to say angrily, I suspect resignedly, throws out the steering wheel. His race is run. He's come all the way to South Africa from America to practice in those 3 1-hour sessions, to qualify, and only to go out very early in the race from 10th on the grid. As Jacques Laffite, with whatever sort of problem was ailing him, corrected apparently, rejoins the race.
Well, Jacques Laffite has been having problems again all week, trying to get his seat right. He said, I've never had a seat right in 14 years, and we said, in the whole of my career, we said, we're not about to sort it in 4 hours here, so he's still suffering with a bad seat problem. Then he said to me this morning, even though they're putting a new seat in, he's getting a lot of wind buffeting because he sits up so forward, and I think, and high, which of course you get the air in the cockpit and lifts your helmet up.
Seems very strange. You have to wonder if it's something about Jacques himself. If you think of the teams he's driven for on the years that he drove for Ligier, he drove for Williams, and he's driven in America, and he still says he's never had a seat that fits him. But anyway, the race is in effect restarting from a rolling start with the drivers nose to tail, all 13 of them that are left, waiting for Johansson's car to be cleared from the circuit behind the BMW M3 safety car. Another lap completed.
This break now is probably what the drivers needed, Murray. It's not that they wanted, but in fact, of course, it gives them the chance to cool and think about what it was, how they started the last time before they start again. Here we go.
Let's see what happened. Look for Stefan Johansson in the black car. Yeah, just spins all on his own.
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, he wasn't near anybody. He can't blame anybody, but something that just within his own self. Whether, of course, he selected down 2 gears at the same time with these sequential boxes, you never know.
Walking in, waving to the crowd. Who knows? There was a gearbox problem for Riccardo Patrese yesterday. In qualifying, they had to strip the engine down, led by Les Jones and Colin Bennett, the chief mechanics here, to correct what the problem was. But the gearboxes have been without trouble at all, except for that one. And Jacques Laffite going very, very slowly indeed at the tail of the field. So 12 competitors left out of the 14 that started. A retirement for Stefan Johansson. I say 12 left because although the 13th, Jacques Laffite, is on the circuit, as you could well see, he's going very slowly indeed, and it looks to me as though he's going to come into the pits again at the end of this lap. And the safety car lights are out. The race will be restarting. The safety car will peel off into the pits after the left-hander at the kink. And then, of course, they are not allowed to pass until they have crossed the start and finish line. About 26 out of 30. Still a long way to go. In these heat conditions, maybe, as you say, Derek, this is a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, well, it just gives them that moment to think about it. Jacques Laffite's back in the pits, of course, but it just gives you time to think about it. They're going to do another rolling start. Some of them have probably never done a rolling start. So, you know, that first one was quite a unique experience. Now they'll be settled in. They know how the car's feeling. They know what the tyres are doing. And I think we're now going to start to see some serious racing.
Well, let's see. We're riding with Emerson Fittipaldi now. That is the race leader, Nigel Mansell, who is setting the pace in the front. And the races go again as they cross the line. And Fittipaldi is just watching Nigel Mansell's line this time, and Jacques Laffite is keeping well to the left. He really would be well advised to pull out of the race, it seems to me, because he's a mobile chicane at the present moment. So Emerson Fittipaldi, followed by Riccardo Patrese in third position, is watching Nigel Mansell's line, something he tried to do in qualifying yesterday but didn't succeed. With Riccardo Patrese, fourth is Lammers, fifth is Andrea de Cesaris, sixth is Derek Warwick, and Hans Stuck in midfield. Look for the black car, number 14 of Hans Stuck. We're riding with him now. He's putting on the pace. He's just done the fastest first sector of all. Derek, explain those lights on the steering wheel.
Yes, well, we've all seen them before, but it's obvious when they get up, the engines rev up to 10,400 revs for this series, and just when he gets to that last set of green lights there, before they just snick the red, you shift gear. They also, of course, have a rev limiter on them, won't allow them to over-rev it.
Andrea de Cesaris has moved up from 6th position to 5th position by passing Derek Warwick. There's the lime green car of Derek Warwick, and that traffic gives you the race positions.
Look at this lot coming down here, Murray. Remember, this is the first time that these drivers, probably since they're in Formula 3, are all driving almost identical cars with the same engines. Totally different.
Which will do 200 miles an hour with the right gearing, which have got colossal torque, which have got, and I say again, no traction control. That's something that a lot of people are praying for in Formula One. No traction controls, slick tyres. That's what these cars have got. And they are spectacular, and Fittipaldi is going for it. Now Fittipaldi is challenging Nigel Mansell, who has nothing, will have nothing of it. Riccardo Patrese holds his third position. Jacques Laffite is in fourth position, and behind him, Andrea de Cesaris has a look to see if he can get past Dan Lammers, who is in fourth position.
There also aren't that many good overtaking places here, Murray, and not many of them had to do it in practice. They've never done it for years, some of them, so they're really feeling their way. Also, as we said earlier, they have to really, really watch these tyres for the whole race. They mustn't get in a situation where they overdrive them and destroy a front set of tyres. They can't, if they come in for a spare tyre, they have to take them off mechanically. There's not an air system to take them off, so it takes a long while.
And of course Nigel has got a tremendous advantage. He's got a clear track in front of him. He can place his car exactly where he wants it to be. He can maintain the line that's going to make it very difficult, quite legally, for Emerson Fittipaldi to get past, although he's trying. We're with him now. And René Arnoux has just gone fastest. He's just done a lap in 1 minute 39.290 compared with Nigel Mansell's 1 minute 42, so they're well off qualifying pace obviously at the present moment. And Andrea de Cesaris, who is in fifth position in the white car with the blue lettering, look out for it, is starting to push very hard indeed. Jan Lammers in the white car in front of him. That's Riccardo Patrese.
It seems like Nigel, although not in this shot, he doesn't, but Nigel's sort of holding the group up a bit. He's trying to get his pace, happy with his pace, and the others are just having to follow suit at the moment. In a minute, somebody's going to get by, and it's all going to start to happen.
And you have to remember that Emerson Fittipaldi, for instance, who is second in the car with the white and red nose, is not only trying to pass Nigel Mansell, difficult enough in itself, but he's trying to keep the man we're riding with, Riccardo Patrese, behind him. Because if you take the wrong line in order to get past the driver in front, you can lay yourself wide open to let someone nip through on the inside from behind you. Leading then, Mansell. There is Fittipaldi. We're in the cockpit with the gifted Brazilian now.
Yeah, we're now on, of course, the old part of the circuit. We're now been to a place called Sunset. We're coming to Clubhouse, famous part of the old circuit. This is the top half of the circuit, which was the lower half of the old circuit. As they work their way up to the S's, they sweep through the S's as they go down here in third gear, fourth gear, depending on how they suit, up the hill. And as they come up now, as they come up to what they call West Bank, you can actually see it's very difficult to get the line because you're coming over a blind brow. But they're all pickling in, getting that line coming in. Difficult to see for overtaking because it's so easy to lock those wheels up coming in there.
Well, Nigel Mansell, who is the most race winner in Formula One, except of course for Michael Schumacher, Senna and Prost. Mansell's won 31 Grand Prix. He's got the experience. He's pacing this race. He's making it very difficult for Fittipaldi to challenge him. And because of that, because Mansell is actually going slower than most of the drivers behind him could go if they had a clear track, it's bunched the field up. Makes a marvellous sight. There's Patrese, there's Lammers. Behind Lammers it's still de Cesaris. Behind de Cesaris in the green car, it's Warwick. Warwick pulls out. Warwick's trying to get it go through. There he is on the outside. We're with Derek Warwick now. 51 years old. The man started his Grand Prix career with Tolman, then he became a works driver for Renault, and after Renault he went to Brabham, he went to Arrows, he went to sports car racing with Jaguar and Peugeot, and now he's a very successful businessman living in Jersey, but loving it here. They've all been euphoric about the series, about the cars, about the country, about the climate, and about the fun they've been having.
Yeah, Hans Stuck said when he got out of the car in German, and of course I have a great grasp of foreign languages, and I heard him say, it's just like being in heaven. It was fantastic to hear his emotion.
Fittipaldi is now pushing. He's gone faster than Mansell in the first sector, but it only makes a tenth or so difference.
Lammers is pushing in the middle there in about fifth or sixth spot, having a fourth spot in fact, having a real push. Remember, he is currently racing very hard all over the world and is racing in this A1 series, so he's up to speed with driving this sort of car. He was racing in Australia and won last week.
Derek, you qualified for this Masters Series. It's fantastic having you in the box. It would be lovely also to see you on the track. But if you were now, what would you be doing to try and cope with Mansell?
Well, if I was Fittipaldi, which I'm not, of course, you've just got to hang with him for a while, push him, get him to overwork those tyres a little bit. The trouble is, remember that Nigel had half a second in hand in qualifying. That means he can drive well within himself, and he's not about to overstress the tyres.
But Fittipaldi is pulling away now from Riccardo Patrese. This is starting at the front to develop into a two-car race. And Riccardo Patrese is starting to hold up Jan Lammers behind him. The Dutchman is pushing Patrese very hard indeed, but he can't do anything about getting past the identical car in front of him.
Well, can you imagine it? Patrese hasn't driven a racing car. He's been on horses for the last 12 years. That's what he has been riding. He said, I only used to four legs and 1 horsepower. Here he is back there, and he's got Jan Lammers, who's racing every week.
But how the lap times are tumbling. Nigel Mansell started off by making a fastest lap of 1 minute 43.4. Then he went quicker with 1:42.7. Then René Arnoux put in a blinder, 1 minute 39.29. Mansell has done it again. Mansell is speeding up. He's gradually increasing the pace of the race, 1:38.961. And Mansell's pole position time was 1 minute 33.4. So it looks as though he's got about 4 or 5 seconds in hand if he really had to push.
But I'm repeating myself, but I think they're so aware that none of them have done 30 laps in a long time. These tyres have not done 30 laps on these cars at Kyalami. So they're pacing themselves, knowing that somebody in front might not be as fit as them, and they might be overdriving their tyres. So they're not going to dare lock a wheel up, Murray, and overheat those tyres.
21 laps left in this 30-lap race, first ever Grand Prix Masters at Kyalami in South Africa, just near Johannesburg, with Mansell still leading, Fittipaldi still second, Riccardo Patrese still third. There's been no change since the race started for the first 5 positions, because Andrea de Cesaris got ahead of Derek Warwick. That's the one change that we've had. And Christian Danner, otherwise known as Christmas dinner to his mechanics in Formula 1, is in 7th position, right behind Derek Warwick, but like so many of them, he's held up, and we've got another new fastest lap, in fact another new 2 fastest laps. I told you about Nigel Mansell, 1 minute 38.9. Fittipaldi did a 1:38.5. Patrese's just done a 38.1 in 3rd position.
Derek Warwick looking all over the back of de Cesaris coming into the S's there. But overtaking is not that easy, and they're just going to pick their way, wait their moment, and have a look at Derek there, right at the back of de Cesaris. But of course you're not sure whether some of these drivers that you knew before have still got bad habits and never look in their mirrors, Murray.
Yeah, and I say again, the age span is very substantial. De Cesaris, that we keep talking about, is just 46. He's incredibly fit, because he spends most of the year in the good climates of Cape Town surfboarding, and when it's not good for surfboarding there, he comes over to Europe, and he's very light. He's very aggrieved, incidentally, about the fact that all these cars are ballasted up to 702 kilograms. So the car and the driver weight is identical, and De Cesaris was Stefan Johansson watching the race. De Cesaris was hoping he was going to have an advantage. We've got 1/3 of the race gone, and as you can see, there is a gap now between Emerson Fittipaldi in 2nd position and Riccardo Patrese in 3rd place. But Fittipaldi just continues remorselessly to hang on to Nigel Mansell. Mansell will see the Brazilian's distinctive black and red helmet, which he used to use in Lotus in 72 when he was world champion, 74 when he was with McLaren. Mansell will see that in his mirrors, and he will know that world champions both, he's facing some real opposition.
I think the pressure too is the fact that Emerson's in a better position as long as he didn't go for the last lap like this, because he is bothering Nigel, whichever way you like to look at it, however experienced you are. To have somebody of Emerson's ability right behind you, sitting right behind you, watching your every move, waiting for you to make a mistake, is pretty inspiring, and of course it keeps you a little bit nervous.
If you add up all the fastest sectors, irrespective of who did them, the ideal lap so far would be 1 minute 37.28. In fact, the actual fastest lap we have is Emerson Fittipaldi, which is 1 minute 38.1. So they're just under a second below the maximum possible pace if you add up all the individual sectors. What that proves, don't ask me, but I can tell you, as you can see for yourselves, it's a mighty close race. And I say again, the fact that the lap record, not the lap record, is continually getting faster is an indication of the fact that the drivers are settling down. We've got 18 laps out of 30 left to go.
And they've done a lot more laps so far than they've ever done before in these cars, so they're into a little area that they've not any knowledge of before as to how the cars are feeling. They're learning a lot about it, and it's obviously going to be the guy. Look at Emerson, have a go down the inside. No, not here yet, says Nigel. But Emerson is certainly putting the pressure on in these slower corners.
Indeed he is, because Mansell's just had to go half a second quicker, 1 minute 37.5. And you remember I was talking earlier on about how calm and resolute and cool Emerson Fittipaldi is in the cockpit. He will know exactly what he's doing. He's pressuring the most experienced bloke in the race to just make a mistake. Nigel's got to keep the car on the track, and he's in a very, very good position. But there's still a lot of the race still to go.
But you're just seeing there is the fastest corner on the circuit, over 160 miles an hour as they sweep down. Then they have to pull it back to the left-hand side and get it right down to a very low second gear for the bowl, as it's called. Feed the power on very gently and to get the speed up to go all the way up to the chicane.
You get some amazing things happening. Eliseo Salazar, who's done less laps than anybody, who's one of the older drivers at 51 and is right at the back of the field, has just done a absolutely super first sector, 23.8 seconds. He's gone faster than he's been before in the second sector. And Warwick is in fifth position. He's gone past Andrea de Cesaris somehow. Warwick has regained that fifth position that he had earlier on. He started sixth, he got up to fifth, he lost it and went back to sixth, and he's regained fifth position again. Nigel Mansell coming towards us leads. Emerson Fittipaldi, not with the nose tucked under the gearbox of Nigel Mansell's car, but not far off it as we ride with Hans Stuck. And Mansell is 2 seconds slower than he can go. He's just gone round in 1 minute 39.4. His fastest lap, and the fastest lap of the race we've had so far, is 37.5. Well, 17 laps to go. I think it says a heck of a lot for these drivers who've been out of racing in single-seaters for so long. We're riding with de Cesaris now, and that will be Warwick storming up on the left in the lime green car to retake his fifth position, and he does it.
Well, it looks like he's getting pretty darn close as well.
Alan Jones,
Lammers in front.
Derek. That's Alan Jones next to Mrs. Fittipaldi. Alan Jones, the world champion of 1980, didn't start in the race because of his neck trouble.
Yes, I talked with him literally just before the race. Very pleased to see him here, to see he's still supporting the event. He just said, Derek, it's just not worth the problem. He said, my neck doesn't feel any better and it's never going to get better until I stop and get some real treatment on it and relax it a bit. He said, it's just like getting cramps in my neck. And there's no point. He totally underestimated, in his own words, what the standard, what the pace and how quick these cars were. In fact, everybody underestimated the speed of these cars.
So what periods did these drivers cover? Well, Nigel Mansell was racing in Formula One from 1980 through to 1995. And Emerson Fittipaldi had finished before Nigel Mansell even began, because Emerson's period covers 1970 to 1980. And look at this!
Three abreast!
It's all starting to happen. It's taken some time, but the man who's making it happen is Hans Stuck. 6'4".
Well, Christian Danner got a little bit sideways back there and he allowed this to break up. And of course they all started to go through. Look, here we go, Stuck right there. But it all got a bit sideways coming up there through what I call sunset, and that allowed them to make that breakthrough which they needed. We're now going back on the old bit of the track. Here's Stuck having a look again as we come up to sunset. I think this is the corner we're talking about. Here we go. Stuck goes down the inside. Whoa, and he gets it well crossed up as he goes through there. My goodness, typical Stuck pose. But he stays there. But of course he lost a bit of time, as you can see, and Danner goes back past him. Just shows what happens when you get it sideways.
It just shows too that if you make a mistake, they're so close now. And look how close Emerson Fittipaldi is to Nigel Mansell with 16 laps left to go in this 30-lap race. Fittipaldi is continuing to push. It's going to come down to the last few laps when drivers are starting to tire. Tires may go off. Avon reckon they got the compound absolutely right for today's conditions. It's hot, there's very good grip on the circuit, but one driving style may affect tyre wear more than another. But you've got two top men in front who know how to look after their tyres. Riccardo Patrese, car number 6, to the white car in the background, still third. And no change for the 4th position, Lammers. Warwick has moved ahead of De Cesaris for 5th position. In 7th position it's Danner, 8th is Hans-Joachim Stuck, that we've just seen doing that superb passing manoeuvre only to lose it. Eddie Cheever is 9th, René Arnoux is 10th. Eliseo Salazar is not disgracing himself, far from it, because he is ahead of Patrick Tambay. Salazar 11th, Patrick Tambay in 12th position. Stefan Johansson out of the race, as is Jacques Laffite.
It's a long time since these guys stepped into cars that they knew very little about, the circuit that they didn't know too well, in conditions they didn't know, and they have to really learn. And their old brain, the computer up there, is really taking it all in and letting them adjust to the situation. Don't overdrive it as they stream downhill through this 160-mile-an-hour sweep, the most difficult corner on the circuit, real grippy one. A lot of G through there. And remember, as we well know from the past, their helmets, 3G corners, 66 pounds their old headways, and that lot. That is a lot of G on an old neck, believe me.
Well, I'll tell you this. A lot of people can congratulate themselves. Only 4 months ago, these cars had not even been designed, let alone built. And Delta Motorsport, who are at Penley-on-Thames, have done an absolutely fantastic job. They took what was a Reynard chassis and completely revamped the bits that hang off it. A Nicholson McLaren V8 engine, Cosworth engine, which produces some 650 horsepower. New suspension, Avon tyres, steel brakes, half distance. We're over half distance in the race now, with Mansell leading Fittipaldi. And the thing that fascinates me is that all the time, in 8th position in the black car, Hans-Joachim Stuck puts in a terrific first sector of the race. He's faster than anybody, lap after lap. But he gets caught up behind Christian Danner, who is in 7th position and just can't get past.
Yeah, well, as we saw just now, Hans tried it, and of course he didn't manage to capitalise on it and lost that position, which he must be cursing himself. Derek Warwick's moved right up there, right up the back of Jan Lammers, and he's pressuring him very hard. Remember, we've no idea as we sit here in the box just how much aerodynamics affect these cars at high speed and what turbulence there is and how they lose a grip at the front in the fast corners, Murray.
At the drivers' conference yesterday afternoon, they were asked how they expected 30 laps in quite severe heat to affect them, and you can see that Jan Lammers is doing very well there, and Derek Warwick answered for all of them. There is Lammers, followed by Derek Warwick. Derek Warwick said, look, when you're in the car, the adrenaline's flowing, and it's not until you get out, you give it your all. And he said, we've done 45 laps one way and another today.
Coming their way back onto the straight again. Remember, you've got to get traction. It's a long way. If you spin the wheels and you lose a couple of tenths all the way along here, past the pits, down the hill up to 150, down a gear through the left-hander, on it all the way, braking very, very hard as they come into this very, very tight right-hander.
Watch Emerson Fittipaldi. He's just done the fastest lap of the race. We've had change after change for the fastest lap, and Emerson Fittipaldi is putting the pressure on now. But look at that, Mansell's seen it, and Mansell has responded. Mansell did a 1:37.5 on lap 12. Fittipaldi's done a 1:37.0. That's half a second faster than Mansell on lap 19. We've got 11 laps to go now, but Mansell is on top. Mansell's got control of this race, very much so. And nobody will want to win more than Nigel. He is a winner. He regards himself as a winner. He wants to finish first. If Nigel Mansell was playing shove halfpenny with his children, he would have to beat them. That's the sort of guy he is. And just to show you how true that is, Nigel has just gone fastest of all in the first sector. fastest of all in the second sector. I have little doubt that he will be fastest of all in the third sector, and that the gap between himself and Fittipaldi will be greater. Whether or not he's had a signal from the pits or whether he's decided to clear off on his own, I don't know. Well, there is the signal from the pits. P3 goes out to Riccardo Patrese, and Mansell has done it. Fastest in all three sectors. The first lap in under 1 minute 37 seconds with a time of 1 minute 36.390. And he's now a full second, over a second ahead of Fittipaldi. He's 7.8 seconds ahead of Patrese. He's 9 seconds ahead of Lammers. He's over 10 seconds ahead of Warwick.
Well, of course, there's something here we have to contend with. The heat actually in the cockpit of the cars, and strange enough, the two cars that had overheating problems with their engines were both the black cars. They're the ones that they've had problem with. Something to do with that black, I've no doubt. But nonetheless, in the cars, as I said, we're in an area these guys haven't experienced for a while. The temperature in the cockpit, it is very hot outside today. And of course, they're balancing those cars right on the limit. Let's just ride in second and see this bit of opposite lock as they go right out onto the edge. Stucky there in a familiar pose with a bit of opposite lock on. Hey, look at them, here they go, sliding out. But of course, Stucky almost had to back off there because he's going to run up the back of Dana.
And that lap of Nigel Mansell's was 7 seconds faster than his opening fastest lap. And there is the proof of what I was saying. This is a two-car race because there's no one else in sight at the moment behind Emerson Fittipaldi, who is second. But I am not expecting the Brazilian to drop back, and if you look at the gap between them and Riccardo Patrese as he exits the kink in third position. The gap is over nearly 8 seconds, and Derek Warwick is right up behind Riccardo Patrese.
No, he's actually, sorry, he's right behind Lammers.
Still behind Lammers, and in front
here he
of
goes. No, he's not. He's being. Look at Lammers. You see, Lammers is such an exponent at blocking, and he's not about to let him go through. You F3 drivers, I hope you're not watching this too closely. But that's the way you do it. And he's holding Derek off. Derek will be a little bit peeved by it, but I guess that's motorsport, and he's not going to get any free rides today.
They had dinner with each other last night. They were slapping each other on the back and exchanging jokes and reminiscences before they went out. This will be another thing they'll be talking about when they get out of the cars. So now the Mansell-Fittipaldi battle is nearly 9 seconds ahead of Riccardo Patrese, who is holding everybody up behind him. In fact, they're nearly 2 seconds ahead now, and you can see from that graphic there's just 9 laps to go. How time flies when you're enjoying yourself. We're enjoying ourselves, and I'm sure they are. They're going to be getting out of the car and grinning at each other and saying that was fantastic, and it was. But Jan Lammers is the man to watch. He's all over the place. He's trying to get past Patrese, and Warwick is trying to get past him.
There's Sylvie Stuck, his wife there, happy. Hasn't seen him race for a few years at this level. But let's just look at these guys. They're actually not just following each other, Murray. They're really trying. How can I possibly outdo this guy in front? How can I break him in an identical car? How can I work him over? They're all terribly experienced guys. They all know, they have such great race experience, whether it's Le Mans, whether it's Formula One, whether it's champ cars. They're all on a limit, and they've got to fathom out in their little brains up there, big brains, how to get by somebody, how to work him over. And so far, not too many have figured it out.
And Hans Stuck, the black car, is in 8th position. Ahead of him, Christian Danner. Ahead of him, De Cesaris. Then it's Derek Warwick in 5th place, trying to get past Jan Lammers in 4th position. Riccardo Patrese, the man who is leading this battle, in 3rd position. And the gap now between Patrese and Mansell is 14 seconds, because Mansell and Fittipaldi are really pushing. And it's a combination of them pushing and Patrese holding everybody up. Although the gap between him and through, look at that, that's De Cesaris taking Derek Warwick. De Cesaris in the white car with the red lettering challenges Derek Warwick.
Oh, so does Danner.
Now it's Patrick Danner, Christian Danner.
Yes. You mean lunch?
Or even Christian De Cesaris.
That's right. I mean, really having a go in there, but of course, poor old Derek was... Here we go. Watch Derek. He goes over because he's trying to get pace coming out of the corner. Oh, whoops. Here comes the boy down the inside. Just what he didn't need. De Cesaris goes through. Just all that work Derek did. And Derek's trying to figure out how to overtake Lammers in front, and that's given Lammers the break he needed, because he needed a bit of a respite from that pressure.
So to recap, the battle for the lead, Mansell and Fittipaldi. Patrese is 12 seconds behind the leaders and 2 seconds ahead of Jan Lammers.
Stuck looking at Dana now very seriously, out on the dirt there as we come out of that top corner. Getting the dirt all over the back of the car is Eddie Cheever. We haven't seen much of him this race, but he's in there feeding his way. He hasn't raced in Europe for quite a long time.
Back 24 out of 30. Head Stuck. And Fittipaldi and Mansell have just done.
Look at Dana on the inside, his wheels right inside Warwick there, hits him, look, or touches him. Oh my goodness.
Christian Dana in 7th position, trying to get that 6th place away from Derek Warwick. And Fittipaldi and Mansell out of the front have done an identical time down to the 1,000th of a second, 1 minute 37.069.
De Cesaris all over the back of the Lammers. They know it's 5 laps to go. They haven't got long to do it. The tyres probably have got to their maximum or their minimum wear, whichever you like. They're not going to get any worse now. Let's give it everything we've got. De Cesaris is all over the back here of Lammers, and he's trying very hard. Look, he goes through. Now that's what Derek Warwick should have had to go at earlier.
Well, Andrea de Cesaris moves up into 4th position ahead of Jan Lammers. That was an inspired and very, very determined move.
Well, that was a couple of laps. He's got by 2 places. A great piece of work by him.
Andrea de Cesaris, I remind you, the Italian, the young Italian in this race, he's 46 years old. And now they're with Fittipaldi.
Yeah, they're not hanging around anymore.
6 laps to go, and Mansell with the honour of winning this first Grand Prix Masters race, beckoning him, knowing he's only got a few laps to go, and that he has not got a problem at all if it wasn't for Emerson Fittipaldi, and he is a major problem. And Hans Stuck is streaking through the field now. He's up into 6th position. Hans Stuck has passed Christian Dana. Now we're starting to see drivers getting tired, or tyres getting tired, or maybe engines overheating. They've been running nose to tail for a long time and probably are not getting enough cooling air through to the radiators.
And I think they're also tired of sitting behind somebody, and they think it's about time I did something. Haven't got far to go now, and as I said, but here we go. Let's just watch this move here. Look, right down the inside. Very cool move by De Cesaris. Pushes the other driver out wide. And that's it, on the way. Great stuff.
Is this Grand Prix Masters concept working? It certainly is. We've got some of the top drivers from the past battling with each other in these searing conditions at Kyalami. And Hans Stuck is one of them. 6th position. And back at the field, René Arnoux is starting to speed up too. He's only in 10th position. But I think we're going to see some changes before the end of this race, and it's not going to be very long before that happens, the end of this race I mean, because there's just 6 laps to go, including the one they're on now, with Mansell leading Fittipaldi and a clear field behind them. One of these two is bound to win this race unless they take each other off, or unless they have a car problem, and I cannot see either of those things happening.
They're just going down through turn 1, they call this turn 2, through here 150 miles an hour as they come up into what we call oh my goodness, Jacques Laffite.
Sorry, Laffite. Jacques Laffite, and he's taken with him, it's Salazar, the Chilean driver, and they've had a coming together, and Jacques Laffite did it just at the pit lane.
Yeah, Jacques just never knew he was there, did he? Dear, oh dear, oh dear.
Well, that's definitely a retirement. Look at that right front suspension, and it's René Arnoux, incidentally.
They're 2 close mates, Murray.
Yes.
They spent the whole week together. He's sharing seats in qualifying. I'll do half the qualifying, you do the other with my seat.
We had dinner with them last night, and they were in the best of spirits. I think there may be some harsh French words spoken. But Jacques Laffite definitely out of the race. I don't know if René Arnoux kept going, but he was, as I was saying at the time, on a charge. 5 laps to go. Mansell has put a little air between himself and Fittipaldi, because he's just on the fastest sector again in the first sector, 23.499. Mansell knows what he's doing. Oh, he's locked up. He's trying very hard indeed. Steel brakes, I remind you.
There's AP brakes, and in fact the calipers designed by the team themselves to AP's design, and really working very well. Nobody's complained at all. Look at Emerson, sweeps over to get a quick line downhill, really harrying Nigel all the way down here. Emerson's not getting up easy. He could easily say, after 12 years, I'll just cool it a little bit, I'll be happy with second place. But in fact, he's certainly not happy with second place. He's a winner all the way, and he wants it right down to that checkered flag.
As we look down the midfield lane, 52-year-old Nigel Mansell leads 58-year-old Emerson Fittipaldi into the final laps of this race. There is Jan Lammers, and he is down to 8th position. Jan Lammers has lost place after place. Slow-mo.
That's of Nigel's tyre locking up as he came through the chicane just now, the one which you talked about, Murray.
Well, Nigel's got a grip on this. Try as Fittipaldi may, Nigel responds to every move that Emerson Fittipaldi is making, and of course Nigel is, to put it mildly, in the advantageous position in front of the race. He was fastest in practice, he was fastest in qualifying, he was fastest in the warm-up this morning. He's made the fastest lap of the race so far, 1 minute 36.39. And try as Emerson Fittipaldi may, subject to correction, as Chloe watches Dad at work, well, at play. No, they're not working, they're playing, they're enjoying this.
I bet she can hardly remember the last time she watched it with such interest, Murray.
So it's getting towards the end of the GP Masters. 3 laps to go. 2.64 miles laps. So just about 8 miles to go in what has already been an extremely memorable race. The fact that it was held at all was an incredible testimony to Scott Poulter, to Delta Motorsport, to Nicholson McLaren Engines, to everybody else that's put this superb package together. And Fittipaldi is certainly not giving up. He's just gone a bit quicker, but not quick enough. And it's still Patrese third, but he's now 20 seconds behind the Mansell-Fittipaldi battle. He's 1 second ahead of de Cesaris, who is fourth, who is 1 second ahead of Derek Warwick, who is fifth, who is just about a car length ahead of Hans Stuck, who has stormed up the Austrian up into 6th position, and he started 9th. I think when we come to look at who's done best in this race in terms of improving his starting grid position, Hans Stuck, and there he is going to be one of the top people.
Yes, I think also Patrese's better start checking those rear mirrors a bit better than he's been, because he's really got de Cesaris all over the back of him now, and we've seen the way de Cesaris has moved through the field, and he's not going to hang around just because he's another Italian in front, that's for sure.
De Cesaris was fastest in the testing at Silverstone, and I was talking to him and said, how long is it since you've driven a single-seater? 11 years, he said. 11 years, and look at him. He is in that 4th position, gunning for 3rd, just as Emerson Fittipaldi is in that 2nd position, gunning for 1st with 2 laps to go. This one and the one that follows. And let's ride with the Brazilian. And hello! This is a slow-mo of Nigel Mansell just momentarily having the front of the car step out, but he's on the case.
He's right on the case. He's had that happen before, a lot higher speed than this, Murray. Didn't really lose any time over it, and he's pulled away, kept his pace in front of Emerson. He's not going to give in at all, and nor's Emerson, of course, but he couldn't capitalise on that.
Let me just remind you that Nigel Mansell is the world champion of 1992. He's won more Formula One Grand Prix than anybody except Schumacher, Senna and Prost. He went to America and became, in his first year, the American Champ Car winner. He jolly nearly won the Indy 500 at his first attempt. He only lost it because he just wasn't aware of the restart procedure well enough when the yellow went out a few laps from the end of the race. And it looks as though he's going to add to his laurels by becoming the first ever winner of a Grand Prix Masters race, the inaugural race here at Kyalami. They're not very far off starting the very last lap of the 30 in this event. Nigel Mansell and Fittipaldi virtually nose to tail when we last saw them, and they still are. Look at this.
Yeah, he's really putting the pressure on.
This is the start of the last lap. Well, it's happening behind them, but Fittipaldi knows, and look at it. He hangs on, the red lights come on. That means to say that he's well into the maximum revs of the engine. And this is irrespective of who wins this race, this is a quite astounding performance by Emerson Fittipaldi. Because he said to me yesterday he's had to break through a mental barrier to take part in this race at all. He wasn't at all sure, but he wanted to do it because when all said and done, this is a dangerous business and he's 58 years old. So
it's not over yet, Murray.
Mansell knows and he's got half a lap to go now. Is it going to come down to the last corner? Is there going to be a do-or-die effort by Emerson Fittipaldi to get through? No. Mansell has got enough torque, enough grunt to pump through those rear tyres to keep in front of Emerson Fittipaldi on this very last lap. Just listen. Well, Mrs. Fittipaldi, you can be proud of your husband, and Fittipaldi has a go.
He had his right wheel locked up there.
This is absolutely fantastic. And he lunges again. This is the last corner coming up. Mansell is going to win this race, little doubt about that. But what a fantastic fighting finish from Emerson Fittipaldi. It's less than a second going to come with them after 30 laps. Two world champions up front, and Nigel waves the wave of victory. Well done, Nigel Mansell. There's son Greg, daughter Chloe, and Emerson Fittipaldi eases up alongside his friend as Riccardo Patrese comes through in third, and Derek Warwick challenging for fourth position but just failing to get him. The finish of the first ever Grand Prix Masters here at Kyalami sees Nigel Mansell beat Emerson Fittipaldi by 0.4 of a second after 30 wonderful laps. Riccardo Patrese finishes third, just 1 second ahead of Andrea de Cesaris, who was 1/10 of a second ahead of Derek Warwick. In sixth position, Hans Stuck, that was a fine drive with Christian Danner, who promised so much but in the end wasn't able to deliver, in 7th position. Eddie Cheever 8th, Jan Lammers 9th, and Eliseo Salazar, a superb and well done 10th position. Well, Jan Lammers started from 4th on the grid. It wasn't a good race for him because he finished 9th. And Hans Stuck was just the reverse. He started 9th and he finished 6th. And Eddie Cheever, just for the record, just scrambled past Jan Lammers on the very last lap to take 8th position. Good race, Derek?
Oh, fantastic. I mean, to see the quality of those drivers, to see two greats, many greats in fact, but to see those two wheeling it out right up to the bitter end with such control, such mastery, without making mistakes, it really is a tribute to them and everybody that put this program on. Because to get drivers after all these years to come back, put on a performance and a show like that, immaculate show, Murray, is quite outstanding.
Yes, and congratulations again to Scott Poulter, because he's taken an enormous financial risk in getting the money together. You've got to put up an enormous amount of money up front to get a race like this to happen, let alone virtually on the other side of the globe. But just to recap, as you look at the two heroes, well, they're all heroes. And incidentally, I think that was Jody Scheckter waving the checkered flag, South Africa's world champion of 1979, who's come over here and was asked if he'd like to take part in the race. No thanks, he said, I'm an organic farmer now, not for me. It would be nice to see him though in the future. But Nigel has emerged, our Nige, the man they call Il Leone, the lion in Italy, and a tremendously popular driver in America as well. Well, he's added yet more to his laurels.
There's Patrese's wife on the left, and of course Mansell's wife on the right, both of whom went around in the two-seater Minardi yesterday and the day before, Murray, screaming and shouting with their husbands driving.
Yeah, Mrs. Fittipaldi, incidentally, was not at all keen on Emerson taking part in this race, and Emerson managed to persuade her.
and as a consolation prize or not, whichever way you like to look at it, she went out in the rear seat of one of Paul Stoddart's two-seater Minardi cars. There's 8 of those here, and Johnny Herbert is one of the drivers, and a lot of people have been getting a ride, and it's a quite incredible experience, I can tell you. But Mansell and Fittipaldi come to a halt. Mansell does a bit of a burnout. Is he going to do a donut as well? No, he's not. Oh, what a lovely sight. Mansell and Fittipaldi and Riccardo Patrese draw up in line abreast at the end of the first Grand Prix Masters race. And there's an enormous crowd here. They're enormously enthusiastic. They've been waving and cheering every time they go past. In this category, incidentally, they wear the head and neck support to prevent whiplash in the event of a crash. You can just see it. Well, you can't see it now, but you can see it as Nigel got out of the car. Well, there he is. That's the head and neck support. And son Greg. Well done, Nigel. Yeah, you are a star. No doubt about the fact that Nigel's happy. And he embraces Fittipaldi as he did at the end of the qualifying session. And I'm sure that they are each going to be saying to each other that was a fantastic race, old friend. Riccardo Patrese, 3rd position, nothing to be ashamed about. It's a long time since he, as I said, you can see he's wearing glasses, but his last drive in a single-seater was about 8 years ago, when he had a courtesy drive, courtesy of Frank Williams in one of the latest Formula One Williams. Riccardo actually finished his career with Benetton. Father and son embrace, and no doubt Chloe will be getting a hug as well. Lovely. Well done, Nigel. Just 0.4 of a second between first and second. 1 second between third and fourth and fifth, Derek Warwick. Just a 0.9 of a second between Stuck in 6th position and his countryman Christian Danner in 7th place. Is Emerson Fittipaldi happy? Indeed he is. He had doubts about coming to take part in this race. Those doubts were resolved when he thought it through overnight. But here's the happiest man of all, the tremendously popular Il Leone, our Nigel Mansell, winner of the Grand Prix Masters at Kyalami in South Africa, the first race of what I'm sure will be many. I was saying earlier on, there's the expectation that there are going to be 6 races next year. Hopefully, it's not absolutely finalised, but hopefully one in Qatar, one in Shanghai, one here, of course, again in Johannesburg, and one in Britain, we think at Silverstone, another one at Jerez in Spain, and Monza, the historic circuit in Italy. And I'm sure that a lot of drivers have been watching this race today, sitting on the fence and wondering whether or not they should take part. And I have equally less doubt that a lot of them will want to do so next year. And there will be even more drivers, and some different ones, in the Grand Prix Masters Series of 2006. Step up on the top step of the podium with me, says Nigel, a typically sporting gesture. Fittipaldi on the left does it, and Patrese on the right, as you look at the screen, that does the same thing too. That's the boss of Altec, who put so much money into this event. Revenge is sweet, say Patrese and Emerson Fittipaldi. We may not have won the race, but we'll give you a soaking, Nigel.
He's got more champagne left than they have, though, Murray.
Yes, another tactical move by Mansell.
Not a race, and I mean, I kept shifting up too soon because I was having to opposite lock, and I kept knocking the gear. So you almost got me a couple of times.
Now, Emerson, you were pushing so hard, but you didn't make any mistakes.
No, Nigel didn't make any mistakes, no opportunity. At the last corner, 3 corners before last on the last lap, I tried to pass him inside, but only half car, and there was no way he could get. I mean, he did a fantastic job.
Well, if you close your eyes, it was almost 1986, wasn't it? Actually, just listening to Murray there, we were just sort of debating in the studio about, with all due respect, Murray, I'm sure maybe members of his family listening, about how old Murray is. 82. Commentating today, and we were looking up on murraywalker.com or whatever it was about some of those great Murray Walker-isms that we all have come to know and love over the years. With half the race gone, there's still half the race to go. I should imagine that the conditions in the cockpit are totally unimaginable. If is a very long word in Formula One. In fact, if is F1 spelt backwards. And we could go on. Anyway, from one great voice of sport to another.